Hello, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of Talmbout Wrestling, right here on the Black Fitness Network. I'm your host, the untouchable J.R. Atkins, and this is your primary destination for wrestling conversation. Well, it's getting closer and closer and closer to Wrestlemania weekend, but this weekend, it's Dynasty. That's right, AEW is bringing you AEW Dynasty tomorrow night, because this is going up on a Saturday. Tomorrow night. And promises to be a barn burner. And this is the month. When the WrestleMania season hits, it's a little different. It's always a little different. The feeling is in the air. You know it's there. Like, for instance, for no reason whatsoever, I am holding the NXT Championship. I don't know why. It has nothing to do with this show. But it was sitting right there, and I said, you know what? Grab it. Grab it. Grab the brass ring. Okay, sorry. Anyway, as always, thanks again for tuning in to Talmbout Wrestling right here on the Black Fitness Network. Again, I'm your host, the untouchable J.R. Atkins, and it's a pleasure to have you here with me. All right. If you're new here, if this is your first time tuning in, make sure that you hit that like button and make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss any other ones. Because hey, look, it's going up on a Saturday now. Sometimes it's a Sunday. Most extreme cases, it'll be on a Monday, but it's going up. Unless I just straight up say that it's not happening this weekend. Because that could happen too. But if you're new here, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. And if you're not new here, make sure you like it, you share it. If you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure you leave a rating and a review. If you're watching me on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the Black Phoenix brand on there. All right. And then scroll through and check out some videos, some former episodes, some live music performances from me. All right. Because I do a little rap on it, right? So check all of that out. Make sure you check that out. And again, if you're new here, thank you for tuning in for the first time. Hopefully you'll stay and you'll come check us out again. And if not, thanks for coming anyway. But I hope you stay. It's like stay. Please stay. So with all that being said, let's get into it. This hopefully won't be that long of a show. But I can't promise that because we got some things we got to cover. Right? So we'll see what happens. But we can't do anything until I do the thing that I know you're here to see. It's the shirt of the day. All right, I'm going to be honest with you. This week, we didn't go wrestling. This is a vintage, if you want to call it that, Black Phoenix logo t-shirt. There will be a Talmbout Wrestling and a Black Phoenix Network shop coming soon. If anybody wants to purchase any merch, probably have to set that back up or however I want to do it, but it will be coming. So, stay tuned. And I got the belt just for the razzle dazzle because I didn't do a wrestling shirt this week. But hey, sometimes it's Black Phoenix brand. Sometimes we're doing something else. And with this being an AEW weekend, I probably could have thrown an AEW shirt. I don't have as many of those as I do WWE. And that's not what we're going to talk about today for real. But we are going to cover it starting now because leading up, we're doing a bit of a WrestleMania weekly update as the bill gets closer. And things have taken a very strange turn on a lot of ways. I'm going to be honest. This WrestleMania build is a very interesting one. I feel like it's the most TKO heavy one, and maybe last year was too, but this year feels like even more. There's a lot of rumored TKO influence and a lot of like pleasing different masters, and the fact that these ticket prices are so high, and like now it's become a thing on TV to acknowledge that the ticket prices are too high without just dropping the ticket prices is a thing. I'm not really sure what we're doing here, but that's where we are. Do we have any extra matches that have been made since then? There were a lot of developments this week, actually, for the matches that and just in the format of the card. So a lot of things here are seemingly kind of falling into place. I don't know if we're at the final card just yet, but that doesn't matter because we're not making predictions yet. That'll be next week. But nonetheless, we can cover kind of what's happened this week. I'm going to hit some of the major. I'm just going to go through the card as it looks like and see whatever happened. So the biggest thing, I guess you could say, maybe not the biggest, but in terms of the matches for the card, we finally have official division. Logan Paul, Austin Theory will be taking on, and I Show Speed will be taking on the Usos and LA Knight in a 6-man tag team match. Now, it is rumored, I think, I don't know if it's rumored or confirmed, that ESPN has been pushing for that match to open up night 1 of Mania. I could absolutely see that being a thing. If you don't know, the first hour of both nights will be on ESPN cable channels, basically. So the first night 1, will be on ESPN2 for that first hour. Night 2 will be on ESPN proper for the first hour. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute too. So I can definitely see them wanting to have something a little more, something that'll catch people, right? Logan Paul is, for better or worse, an influencer, but a celebrity. Even though he is, he actually is full time in WWE. I can't even. We're at the point now where we can't even deny that he is, he's a WWE superstar, straight up. He's held 2 titles. There's probably more to come, and he's there weekly. So he's actually definitely a full time WWE superstar. I heard somebody talking about him, kind of in passing, because they were talking about his brother, and they referred, and Logan Paul, he's a WWE super wrestler, and it's like, oh, that's where he is now. So is what it is. And I Show Speed, of course, one of the biggest influencers, out there. So of course you would have them in your opening match. If you're going to put something on live TV, then you need something that's going to catch people, bring people in. That's the thing to do. You see Logan Paul, he looks enough like Jake probably that you be like, is that Jake Paul? If you're flipping through the channels, is that Wrestlemania? Is that Jake Paul? Oh, that's Logan Paul. Not Show Speed. Like I can see that being a thing. If you're coming through and against the Usos, they're definitely gonna do a big yeet thing like they did last year for Mania, opening up the show. It's gonna be the same thing as night 1 last year, probably in that regard. And then LA Knight probably gonna get a huge pop as well. So makes perfectly good sense for that to be the opening match for the whole show, really. And even if it is on ESPN2, which is, and I guess it's in doing that, it's ESPN2, not ESPN proper. So that's going to be kind of a thing too. But so that's probably going to open up that. And because we had that official, that's probably the biggest news coming out of the week, at least as far as matches go. Stephanie McCurry and Liv Morgan is slightly in jeopardy because there was this spot where Stephanie McCurry attacked Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez. I think she slammed their heads together or something, and they both have if you've seen Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins and Michael Clark Duncan tells Martin, he's like, my mama got a titty on her forehead. That's basically what happened here with Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez, if I'm not mistaken. I know Liv has it. I'm thinking Roxanne does too. They have a huge knot in the middle of their forehead. And I think they went through concussion protocol. So there's the question of whether or not they will be cleared for Mania or not. So, Liv will be cleared for Mania or not. I think they said things look good, but we'll see. Nothing else got made there as far as night 1 goes. We do have, I think they have announced what matches will be on what night. Like I said, so that's why, again, the Vision and I Show Speed 6-man is probably confirmed for opening night 1. Also, in night one, I guess I run through this as well. We have Jacob Fatu, Drew McIntyre, and I don't know if these are in any order. I don't think they are, except for what's the main event and what's going to open. I think those two are set, but everything else is kind of probably up in the air. Jacob Fatu, Drew McIntyre as well on night one. Stephanie Vaquer and Liv Morgan for the Women's World Championship will be on night one. AJ Lee, Becky Lynch for the Women's Intercontinental title is on night one. The Fatal 4-Way tag match for the Women's Tag titles are on night one, with Nia Jackson Lash Legend versus Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss versus Bayley and Lyra Valkyria versus the Bellas. We have Seth Rollins versus Gunther. We have Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. And I'm not even going to acknowledge the fact that it has with Pat McAfee. But I guess I do have to. There was another development with the Seth Rollins Gunther thing. We got some developments there. They kind of had a bit of a brawl. Backstage, Paul Heyman catches up with Gunther and he's like, hey, I don't know if there's anything personal with you and Seth, but I definitely owe you a large debt of gratitude or whatever. Gunther's like, oh, you owe me so much more than you even know. So the again, not. I'm gonna talk about this in a minute too, because there's some things that happen here. Try to make lemonade out of lemons, right? Couldn't do the matches you wanted to do with Seth and Gunther, so you put them together, and now it makes a little more sense. Gunther coming to the aid of Paul because eventually he wants the match with Brock. Which I don't think you needed to do that, but at least it gives you a reason to get there. It gives you something. So I'm with it. However, some stuff happened here that I'm kind of questioning, so whatever. And of course, Cody, Randy Orton with Pat McAfee. That's probably the biggest story coming out of the week, is this whole Pat McAfee thing and the reaction to it from last week to this week. This week, there were the rumors that WWE was planning to kind of do some kind of pivot because of the reaction. I'm not really sure how true that is. The biggest thing everyone is saying is Cody and Randy didn't need that. So much so that Cody, in his response to Pat McAfee's promo on SmackDown last night, actually said the people want to see Cody and Randy, not Pat McAfee. So Pat McAfee makes the declaration that if Randy Orton loses, he will leave professional wrestling for good. And I watched Simon from What Culture, his ups and downs, and he was like, I don't really want that either, because I kind of like Pat. I just didn't want him in this. And I think I kind of fall there too. I think he's entertaining enough on commentary. He brought something different than what the usual commentators bring to the table. There's a bit of a fan aspect of sports. He's a douche, generally speaking. But as far as commentating goes, I actually think he and Michael Cole are a very good tandem. And I like when you throw other people into the mix and it kind of mixes things up. I've always enjoyed that. So, very interesting thing here. I'm like, and maybe he was done anyway, and they just decided to bring him in for this to kind of, I'm not against Randy Orton winning number 15. And then we got Jelly Roll involved in this now. So are we eventually going to do Jelly Roll and Cody versus Randy Orton and Pat McAfee? Are we doing that at Backlash maybe or something? This is very interesting. It's a very interesting build that isn't really doing what anybody really thinks or wants it to do. Again, we've gotten into this. Pat McAfee's thing is to be the WWE sucks now, and Randy Orton's gonna bring it back to the days of the Attitude Era or something. I think, which Randy Orton wasn't in the Attitude Era, so that's a thing. I'm be honest, I don't know what we're doing in this build at all. It's doing weird stuff. Cody, the the build stuff that we're doing with Cody is year after year kind of repetitive. You keep getting his ass kicked. I know he's a baby face, and that's kind of what you do, but can we switch it up a little bit? And we keep throwing celebs in there. That shit. The year before, I mean, you count, The Rock kind of celebrity-ish at this point. Last year it was Travis Scott. This year now it's Pat McAfee. At least he has a celebrity too with Jelly Roll, so there's that. Cody Rhodes is champion. I'm not saying he's not doing anything for me. I'm just not sure what it's supposed to be doing. So, whatever. Night 2, we have Obafemi and Brock Lesnar, which is, I think, all but confirmed to be opening up night 2, which I predicted. Definitely predicted that about a week or two ago before it was even announced on what night was what. I think if you're going to do something with open, like knowing that they're going to have that extra hour and this is going to be on ESPN proper, Brock Lesnar is absolutely an ESPN type athlete. That he's done UFC. He's actually absolutely a name. UFC has more credibility, unfortunately, in that ESPN world than anybody else really in WWE. So when you hear, like, at least like when you think Brock Lesnar, you think, well, he's really in, he was really in the UFC, so he's really an athlete. He's really a WWE guy that went to UFC for a brief minute and whatever. So so it made sense again for that same reason I was saying about the Logan Paul and the IShowSpeed aspect of things on night 1. Same thing with Brock Lesnar on night 2. If you're flipping through, you're like, is that Brock Lesnar? And now you're watching Brock Lesnar take on this big black dude who in theory should be throwing Brock Lesnar around. However, and this isn't even my prediction yet because I don't know one way or the other, but because of that, that is the only reason I think that the winner of this match is in question. Obafemi should win this match. Point blank, period. But there are a bunch of other people who should have beat Brock Lesnar, especially those who look like me. Okay. There are a bunch of others who should have beat Brock Lesnar and did not. Bobby Lashley, I don't even know if I think he did get his one-on-one. And he actually may have beaten Brock, but it was because of Roman, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was at that Rumble. Yeah, I think that was at the Rumble that year. But ESPN may want Brock. They may want Brock to go over. There are two ways you could look at that. You want to start it out with kind of a feel-good thing, and you want Brock to go over because he's the name. And you want, whatever. But if you were smart, I think Oba going over would be bigger because you have now built a star on the biggest platform and the most visible, potentially visible WrestleMania moment that you could have in history, because it's never been on like cable prop where you didn't pay anything. And this isn't, in theory it's a pre-show, but that's a main match. They didn't like we're just gonna do this. Like, that's a main match that you will be giving away for free, essentially, on cable for WrestleMania. And if you have your next big up and coming thing, Obafemi, beat Brock Lesnar, forget all the sex pest stuff and all the controversy. Forget all that. The name is still Brock Lesnar. He's still, because I'm not even discussing that part right now. I'm discussing in the wrestling world. He's still Brock Lesnar as a name, the one who ended the streak. If Oba pins Brock and Mania on ESPN to the moon, you could do. He could be challenging CM Punk and win by SummerSlam if you did that. And I think that's the trajectory you should put him on to keep him going, or even Roman. If Roman's going to be part, I don't know who's going to win that match this year. I hadn't thought about it, but or you could have Oba take on Roman. That's the trajectory you could put him on. And again, let's put some perspective. There's not a lot of people who have beat Brock at WrestleMania. That list looks like, especially since the streak. So he lost in that triple threat. It was with Roman and Seth, basically, but he didn't get pinned. Following year, he beat Dean Ambrose. 33, he beats Goldberg. 34, beats Roman Reigns. 35, he lost to Seth. 36, he lost to Drew. I don't even think he was at 37, but if he is, I'm drawing a blank. 38, he lost to Roman. 39, he beat almost. He wasn't at 40. He wasn't at 41. That checks out. So the only three people, I guess you could say, who have pinned Brock Lesnar at Mania since he broke the streak are Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre. Put Obafemi in there, instant star. Next up, we have six-pack ladder match for the WWE Intercontinental title. And yes, it's a six-pack, not a five-way, because as of Monday, Rey Mysterio's back. So there you have Penta, Javon Evans, Dragon Lee, JD McDonough, Rusev, Rey Mysterio. Six-pack for the Intercontinental Championship match. Now, the match is going to be insane. Penta's going to do crazy stuff. Javon's going to do crazy stuff. Dragon Lee's going to do crazy stuff. JD McDonough hopefully doesn't die. Rusev is there to be the base for everybody. And now there's Rey Mysterio, who can do some crazy stuff. Probably shouldn't. But why not? Here's the thing. Okay, so we got Seth Rollins versus Gunther, because the plan was Gunther versus Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio was hurt. That's why we had all the Dragon Lee stuff with him and Gunther. It was leading to Rey Mysterio. Did I want to see that match? But given what Gunther is, the career killer thing, I understand. But Rey Mysterio's hurt. We don't have anything for Gunther. Seth was scheduled to go against Braun Breaker, because we figured Seth would be healed by then. But then Braun Breaker gets hurt, and we're not sure what he's going to do. But rumors are that Braun Breaker is actually okay and he's back. But kind of already started moving towards the Gunther direction, right? They didn't want to drop Braun Breaker back into things and not have enough quote unquote build, even though the build's already there. If he did the same thing Gunther did, it would have been fine. I don't know if he was cleared then or not. If you just brought Braun Breaker back then everything's okay. And then we can do that. But whatever. So Braun Breaker's back and he's good. Maybe. We don't know. Maybe they're saving him for night after Mania. Who knows? If he's clear. If he's clear. And now Rey Mysterio is back. couldn't we have just done the matches that we were gonna do? Whatever. I'm not mad at it. It's just one of those things. Like, well, hell, you made this move, but now the people that you whatever. Next up, we have Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley for the women's title, WWE Women's Championship. I won't even say anything about it. I'm not, because I think there's enough people dumping on it as is. So just leave it where it is. Next up, we have for the United States Championship, we have Trick Williams, who will probably have Lil Yachty with him against Sami Zayn. We're definitely doing the double heel turn because it's already happening. They are firmly booing Sami Zayn. And if Trick is getting anything, it's probably because he has Lil Yachty and there's enough celebrity involvement already. At press time, we have Jelly Roll, I Show Speed, Pat McAfee, because he counts as a celebrity. I still, even though I say he's a WWE superstar, Logan Paul, still celebrity. He's just a celebrity wrestler at this point. And now Lil Yachty. So, Finn Balor versus Dominic Mysterio, which will be the Demon. Because for some reason he needs the Demon to beat Dom. He doesn't. And if it was anything other than a squash, whatever. But, hey, hadn't seen the Demon since WrestleMania 39. So I'm with it. And the main event, of course, CM Punk versus Roman Reigns. Nothing really happened. CM Punk dropped a pipe bomb where he talked about Pat McAfee, and he took some shots, but pipe bomb just don't pipe like it used to. You all know how I feel about Punk, and if you don't, used to be a fan, was really happy when he went to AEW, lost all respect for him when he went back to WWE. That's long and short, and it was before he went back to WWE. That's not why I lost respect for him. I lost it before, but any shred I had left was gone when he went to WWE. So he dropped a pipe bomb. I guess it was good. Whatever. I have not been big on this company for a very long time. I think I've made that very clear. So it's not surprising that I'm not the hugest on this build. Again, I still hadn't even figured out where I'm going to watch yet because I'm definitely not. They've made it so to where you have to try to figure it out if you don't have the app thing or whatever. So, and I'm not doing that. I got enough apps as is, and that thing is expensive, and everything else is going up. They're spread out all over the place. It was so much easier when you just had the network. I just want to put in perspective real quick before I move on to AEW. I want to put in perspective. Here in America, you have Raw on Netflix now. NXT is on CW on cable. You have SmackDown on USA on cable. The NXT PLEs, basically, like Stand and Deliver last weekend, was on YouTube because it's not on Peacock anymore, I guess. Even though I think they're showing a Shawn Michaels documentary tomorrow, Monday, which I'm definitely gonna be tuning into that. So I guess maybe they still have some kind of deal with Peacock, but just not. Because USA is like an NBC property, so they still have some connection there, and maybe that's where the Peacock thing comes in. I'm not sure. And all the PLEs now, the main PLEs are on ESPN. You need a Netflix subscription, a Peacock subscription, cable, and this ESPN bullshit. Just for WWE. We lost the plot. We've been lost the plot. So I'll be watching Mania. I'm just not sure how and where. Dave & Buster's is an option, but Dave & Buster's here sucks for that. They do not want to do, and like maybe because now basketball season's kind of coming to a close and like Final Four is over. There's no football. There's no has baseball even started? It hadn't started officially yet. So maybe it'll be okay. But we tried this last year and they acted like they didn't even know what or what was going on. Like there was me, there were a few other people there, and like, yeah, we're here for Mania. We're here for Wrestlemania. Yeah, we'll put it on when it starts. And it literally was 5 minutes to showtime. I walked out in the parking lot, turned it on my phone, and it was there. And it was on. And nobody was moving with it. Like, yeah, and that's not how they typically do things. So I'm not sure. I hadn't been since last year. I think last year was the last time I even tried to go remotely. And there have been others, like AEW pay. Like I went 2 or 3 times, and the experience, it just sucks. It just sucks. So I'm not sure where I'm going to watch WrestleMania, but I will. Tune in next week. I'll let you know then. Moving on though, because that's next weekend. But for now, we got AEW Dynasty, which is a build. Feels better, at least feels somewhat better than some of the WWE stuff. It doesn't feel as insulting because we're just doing the things. We're just moving straight ahead with the things. Things that make sense make sense. Things are things. I'm going to run this card because we're doing predictions. It's prediction time, ladies and gentlemen. So far, we only have one match on the. I guess we're doing 0 hour for this one, and that match is Alex Windsor and Marina Shafir 1-on-1. I'm pretty sure we'll add a couple. Um, Actually, no, we won't because there's no time unless they do it tonight on Collision. There's no time to add anything else to the pre-show. What we have now is pretty much what we get because there's no more time. There's no more time, and this is a fairly short card. 8 matches and one on the pre-show. That's fairly short. All things considered. I mean, it's still probably going to run 4 hours, but just saying. Anywho, so we have on the main card. Well, okay, let's do it like this: Alex Windsor versus Marina Shafir. It really actually should be Marina Shafir. Um, she needs a win way more than Alex Windsor does in a one-on-one setting. Because she's lost like several of the last matches she's had. So Marina definitely needs to get that dub over Alex Windsor for that. So my pick is going to be Marina Shafir. Yeah. Next up, we have FTR, Cash Wheeler, Dex Harwood taking on Cope and Cage for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. So Cope and Cage beat FTR the last time they had a match. Here's my thing. I feel like at Double or Nothing, we're leaning towards FTR, Cope and Cage, and like the Bucks, even though they hadn't really been involved in this. Perhaps, and like I'm holding. I feel like that's where we're going. But how do we get there? And how do we get there if FTR wins and Cope and Cage are out of contention? When did FTR win the tag team titles? Earlier this year? No, last year. No, they've been tag team champions for a minute. Hmm. 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 They wanted like Full Gear. You know, I'm going to go Cope and Cage. I'm probably wrong. I'm going to go Cope and Cage for the win here. Um, I just think, yeah, I don't even have any other reasoning, I, other than they're in Canada. But FTR winning in Canada could make some sense because they were in Canada when they won when Cope and Cage won the last time. And if we're moving towards, like, it's kind of where do we go from there? I do think eventually we get Cope and Cage as tag team champions. I'm just not sure when. But it would make sense for it to be this. Um, FTR stood tall on Dynamite. And if we're going by traditional like WWE go home math, that definitely sets us up for Cope and Cage for the win. So yeah. Sticking with my conventional brain. Cope and Cage for the win. Next up, we have Jon Moxley versus Will Ospreay for the AEW Continental Championship. And as I mentioned before, this match was not for the Continental Championship. And then it was for the Continental Championship. Not sure how that happened. Not sure how that happened at all, but it did. Because that wasn't what we were setting up. Um, I'm a little iffy on this one too, because for the same logic that I would use there as the go home math of like in the main event on Dynamite, Will Ospreay pinned Jon Moxley in an 8-man chaos in Canada match with the United Empire versus the Death Riders. Usually when that happens, it's the visual win because they're not going to win at the pay-per-view. I actually, it feels like Will Ospreay should get his revenge here, right? But Willie, Willie, up until up until he pinned Jon Moxley, I had my money on Will Ospreay, and now I cannot make my brain go against the go home logic that Jon Moxley will win. So I'm picking Jon Moxley. It definitely should be Will Ospreay, but I feel like it's going to be Moxley because of that. If they go against go home math, I would be happy to say I'm wrong, but because Will Ospreay deserves his lick back, but I'm kind of like, but I think he just got it. So this is kind of, that was a choice, which leads me to be like, I'm picking Jon Moxley. I'm picking Jon Moxley. Next up, we have Andrade El Idolo taking on Darby Allin, and if Darby Allin wins, he will get an AEW World Championship match in the future. This feels like it's pretty much a Darby Allin win because I do think we're lining up Darby for MJF post Kenny Omega, maybe even for Double or Nothing. Um, so uh, picking Darby, that's an easy pick for me. I think it's Darby. Uh, it's gonna be a great match because Andrade's gonna get to do some stuff that he doesn't typically do, and the way Darby sells is gonna make that a great match. Andrade's on a run, so it's gonna be really good. Next up for the AEW Women's Championship, we have Tekla taking on Jamie Hayter. That's a Tekla win. Not to say this is a throwaway win for and a throwaway match for Tekla or anything, but you do need to have Tekla have some very convincing wins against some very legit opponents. Um, Jamie Hayter makes sense. It seems kind of random, but it makes a lot of sense. When Tekla debuted, uh, she attacked Jamie Hayter and took her out basically for however long, until she decided to come back at Forbidden Door, maybe. Yeah, I think it was Forbidden Door. So Yeah, I think Forbidden Door was in London. So yeah. So you know, I see easy. I mean, again, not to say it's an easy dub, but easy pick for me. Tekla is going over Jamie Hayter. There's no chance there. Next up, we have for the a casino gauntlet for the vacant AEW TNT Championship. Again, Kyle Fletcher is injured, so they are vacating the championship. So far, we have Tommaso Ciampa in there. Tommaso Ciampa has the number one pick, number one slot. Wikipedia is saying Roosh has number two, and I don't know if Dynamite was taped, and so that's a thing. If that's a spoiler, I'm sorry. But it definitely means that who else was in it? Mascara Dorada is in there because he was facing Tommaso Ciampa, and I think Roosh went against Anthony Bowen. So I mean, Anthony Bowen's probably in. It's impossible to pick this because you don't know who's going to be in it, right? My money would be on Tommaso Ciampa. Just set us back to there because, to be honest, Kyle didn't need it. You could have just kept it on Tommaso Ciampa. So I would say put it back on Tommaso Ciampa. I'm not sure who Don Callis has teased having somebody in the gauntlet to bring the title back to the family. I'm not sure who that's going to be. So you got to kind of grain of salt that as well. But we'll see. We'll see. My pick is Tommaso Ciampa because I don't know who else it could be. Probably going to be wrong, but we'll see. Next up, we have the Young Bucks taking on Okada and Takeshita. That, my friends, you know, I'm not sure because feels like it just should be a Bucks win, especially if I feel like they're moving into the title picture again, back into the title picture with FTR and Copeland Cage. That may just be my wish match and not anything that they're actually planning on doing. But Don Callis dangled the carrot of if Okada and Takeshita win this match, then Takeshita can have his international title shot against Okada at Double or Nothing. And it would make a lot of sense for us to do Okada Takeshita for that title at Double or Nothing. You need a match to hang on, and that's one that's been building since last year. So you could absolutely have the Don Callis family win here. And I think you could still get to Takeshita Okada even if they lose. Still picking the Bucks. Still picking the Bucks. Still picking the Bucks. They hadn't had like a big win. I don't think they had a pay-per-view win since they turned babyface. Not really sure. I don't think so. So yeah, I'm picking the Bucks. Picking the Bucks there. Next up, we have the returning Chris Jericho taking on Ricochet, and that's a Jericho win. Of course, it is. No harm, no foul. Some people will say that. No harm, no foul. Main event, we have MJF versus Kenny Omega. This is easy. It's MJF. They're not gonna stray too far from that. It's gonna be, I do think it should be a great match. I still stand on. I believe Swerve cost Kenny the title match, and that we get a Kenny Omega Swerve match finally at pay-per-view for Double or Nothing. I think this pay-per-view doesn't feel as like consequential as like Revolution did. Not if anything, it ever felt like a B level pay-per-view, like a WWE has like a Backlash and those types of things. If anything feels like a B pay-per-view, it's this, because this feels like the springboard to Double or Nothing. Most of these matches I'm looking at with the idea of like, okay, where does this put us in May for Double or Nothing? Like I said, FTR versus Colton Cage. I can't pick the winner there. Same thing with the Bucks and Don Callis family. Because I think all those things are kind of intertwined. I really can't pick a solid winner because of, I'm looking at how this affects where we're going for Double or Nothing. Andrade and Darby Allin's kind of the same thing. I think Darby's probably next up for MJF because he's been the most vocal one calling him out here lately. So I could see that being the thing. They've been kind of positioning that. So Jericho and Ricochet, it's just kind of there. Tekla, Jamie Hayter, I'm not sure who's next for Tekla. It's not. I don't feel like they've necessarily been building anybody in particular. So, but Tekla's still an easy pick for me because Jamie Hayter's not going to win that title anytime soon. Mox and Ospreay, again, I'm not really sure what direction we're going at for either person for Double or Nothing, but it's a tricky call just because of what happened on Dynamite. So I'm confident in most of my picks this time, except for like the tag title match and the Bucks Don Callis match. Well, I'm like 50-50 on my confidence levels for these matches. So those are my picks. I do think it'll still be a great show. In ring wise, it'll be head and shoulders above whatever Mania can produce. Somebody mentioned like, the excitement level for Mania. So like even take Dynasty. My excitement level isn't huge because none of these matches feel like game changing. Like Revolution, you got legit excited for because it felt huge. The main event had big stakes and you didn't know which way it was going to go. So it absolutely was a huge pay-per-view. And if we're talking about in terms of excitement, I think if you take the 1-2 punch of Revolution and Dynasty up against probably night 1 and night 2 of Mania, or even like Elimination Chamber in Mania, if you want to do it like that, WWE side doesn't hold a candle. There's just been a bunch of weird decisions that have led to like, oh, okay. So like Mania, I'm thinking like, what am I even looking forward to here? Jacob Fatu and Drew could be good. It'll be wild. Hopefully Jacob Fatu gets a dub there. So that looks like that could be good, right? AJ and Becky would have been good if it wasn't a rematch. I'm not saying it's gonna be bad, but it's just like I'm just hoping. I wish it wasn't a rematch. Stephanie and Liv maybe could be a sleeper. Also weird that we are stacking 3 of the women's matches on night 1 and only 1 on night 2, and that's Jade and Rhea. That's a choice, but all right. I'm looking, like I said, Jacob Fatu and Drew could be good. And here's the thing: I'm not saying all these matches are going to be bad. That's not what I'm saying. Because Seth and Gunther could be really good. Cody and Drew could be good. It's going to be ridiculous because of Jelly Roll and Pat McAfee, but it'll be good-ish. It'll be pretty basic. It's going to be a standard WWE WrestleMania main event. There will be nothing spicy other than, like I said, you got Pat McAfee running around. You're going to have Jelly Roll running around, and there's that. Stephanie McCurry and Liv Morgan could be a shocker if it, because the build is kind of, from what I've kind of been seeing here, the build has kind of been shocking too. So there's that. Oba and Brock is probably the match that I'm looking forward to the most, mainly because you have one job, WWE. You have one job. Where am I, Mike? Give me this. WWE, you've got one job at WrestleMania. You got one job at WrestleMania, and you had better get the job done. Because anything else will be looked at as an abject failure. You understand me? Obafemi is the future of this business. It is time to look past Brock Lesnar. Put him out to pasture once and for all. It is time for the ruler to ascend. You've got one job. One job. And sing. Sorry, had to cut a little promo. You got one job. That's all I got to say. You got one job. 6-pack match for 6-pack ladder match. Hot spot fest. I'm cool with that. But would have been cooler if this wasn't just like names in a hat. Here you go. Because why Rusev in this match? Other than being the base. Literally in the match just to be the base for all these high flyers. So I'm gonna figure. Sammy and Trick. If we're doing a double turn, I think Sammy wins actually. So I'm looking forward to like Trick's entrance. So he's not gonna win. I don't think. Again, double turn. The double turn only really works if Sammy wins, because you kind of trying to solidify him as a heel. So there's that. I'm not looking forward to Jaden Rhea at all. It's gonna be cool to see Damon Fan and Dom, or just Damon Fan really, because I mean whatever. The thing I look forward to with WWE is two things these days when it comes to WrestleMania, and it's very rarely the matches. I want to see I want to see the gear, the special gear that people decide to wear for Mania, and the special entrances. Those are the only two things that I really actually watch, especially like big pay-per-views. WrestleMania and SummerSlam, that's it. Because they're always going to bring out the big guns for WrestleMania. And since they're building SummerSlam as a kind of the WrestleMania of the summer, they do it more there too as well. Not as much, but they do it there as well. So still looking forward to that. That's it. Punk and Reigns. Again, another WWE. It won't have as many shenanigans. But blah. So Dynasty is my main event of April. What? And then there's something like after that. I feel like there's something after that, but I'm not sure what it is. Anywho, so you got my picks for Dynasty. We talked about WrestleMania a little bit. It is Saturday, and we are. It's not long. It's long in comparison because we've gone longer, way longer. But this has been pretty compact, all things considering. We talked about. See, is there anything else I missed? We talked about the TKO influence, the things that are going to be opening up night 1 and 2, the matches for nights 1 and 2. We talked about that. Couple of notes. Royce Keys actually debuted on SmackDown last night after 3 months. After debuting in the Rumble and then not being on TV. And I guess they were like, oh, you know what? Let's put him in. Let's give him a match. So it looks like we're doing something with Solo. Because apparently there was a backstage thing there. So apparently they're doing something with him and Solo. I don't think they're going to do it for Mania. Of course not. Matter of fact, because whatever. So he's not going to have a Mania match. Because why would you debut him 2 weeks before or the week before? I'm talking about not having a bill. So that's the thing. There's other news, nothing that I really kept up. I typically try to stay within the realm of kind of what's happening on TV these days. There's way too much stuff happening outside that I don't get. Um, that I don't get too deep into. There's this whole thing with um, certain matches that were happening on the independents between TNA talent and AEW talent. There was like a Nick Nemeth versus MJF match that was scheduled. There was a Ricochet versus Leon Slater match that was scheduled. TNA has pulled all their talent from matches with AEW talent. And I assume um, some of the rumor mill is like Carlos Silva, who runs TNA, is feels away because of AEW running head to head against TNA. When they ran Collision on Thursday, I think it was last week or the week. It was last week, I think, that they ran Collision. They ran Collision basically head to head with Impact because of the freaking Final Four, because of March Madness. I think it was, yeah, I think it was still March Madness. I don't think it was Final Four yet. Because of freaking March Madness. Like, and it wasn't an AEW decision. That was a WBD decision, Warner Brothers Discovery decision, because they didn't want to run it on Saturday. They couldn't run it on Saturday basically. So if that's the case, and you're doing all this and you're throwing this temper tantrum because you couldn't have your people on, whatever, go figure. And I don't think I saw people say like, well, I didn't want to watch TNA wrestlers lose to AEW. That wasn't going to happen. Actually, MJF was definitely going to beat Nick Nemeth. But Leon Slater probably was going to beat Ricochet. Ricochet probably was going to put him over. And then some of these other matches, Bear Bronson, I think, had an MJF match at some point. I think that got canceled as well. It's kind of petty, but TNA going TNA. And truth be told, it may not even be Carlos Silver, and it may not be a TNA at all. There was a political reference that I could have made right there, but I'm not gonna do that. Not gonna do that. I'm just gonna say, we all know the TNA these days is in bed with WWE/TKO, and Mania season's coming. But who am I? Who am I? So that's probably one of the other biggest stories going on in the wrestling world right now. That the TK, it's Mania season. Mania is going to be the biggest story. It was the same thing last year. It'll probably be the same thing. When Mania season rolls around, it becomes the biggest thing in wrestling. Unfortunately, it is what it is. Dynasty, this card, what we're seeing, I'm not saying it doesn't feel big. It doesn't feel as big as years in the past, because there have been like much bigger matches in the years past, mainly involving Swerve. Maybe that's why it feels that way to me. Not saying this isn't a big card, but it does definitely feel like a B pay-per-view with nothing. It doesn't have that same anticipation that Revolution had, or an All In, or things like that. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But we'll be back next week to talk about the show. Next week is probably going to be a very long show. I'm going to give you that heads up now. We're probably going to run an hour here. Next week, we're definitely probably catching an hour and a half, because we have to cover the review for Dynasty, and I will be giving my Wrestlemania picks finally, because by then we'll have the final card for sure, and then I can finally give my picks. So with that being said, tune in next week. Get your popcorn for next week, because it's definitely going to be a good one. That's going to be one of them. Put the earbuds in and just hang out. So again, as always, thank you for tuning in to Talmbout Rasslin. Again, if you're new here, if you have enjoyed what you've heard so far, make sure that you like, you share, and make sure if you're new here, or if you just haven't done it yet, make sure that you subscribe to the Black Phoenix Network here on Substack. Make sure you subscribe to Black Phoenix Brand on YouTube. Like and subscribe on both of those platforms. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure you leave a rating and a review. You can follow me there as well, talking about wrestling there as well. And there's probably because I've been doing video versions of What's Up Wednesday for the last couple of episodes or the last couple of weeks or whatever. They're probably there as well. So if you want to hear me ranting and raving about the goings on of Memphis and LeBron James's comments about Memphis and basically telling you all how you got me fucked up, how you got us fucked up as a whole, feel free to check that out as well. So it's a big Memphis thing right here. That's all I'm saying. So all that being said, again, thank you all for tuning in. I go by the name of the untouchable J.R. Atkins, and you have been watching Talmbout Wrestling right here on the Black Fitness Network. And until next time, we are. You got one job. You got one job. One job, WWE. One. Out.